guys, it's Nurse Jan, Nursing the Truth. I had to plug my computer iPad up to another part of my room, and so I'm at a different angle. But it's all good because I'm back. So anyway, I still got God Thoth behind me, and got Anubis, and got a Spastet, and thought I'd show you this. And I got my Ankh, the key of life. So anyway, I just got all kinds of stuff here, guys. All my little gods and goddesses. So we're all good. So what are we going to talk about in the next few minutes? Have you ever heard of the Hyksos or the Hyksos expulsion? If you're a Christian and you just happen to tiptoe on my channel, I invite you to stay with me. I won't be too rough. I promise I won't try to say any cuss words. So, we're going to be good today. So, anyway, for most of you guys that go to church and you sit there and you listen to the preacher feed you nonsense and you don't look up the Greek words and you don't look at historical information to kind of parallel the book, you're in a lot of trouble. Because once you start paralleling things and finding where things are, you go, you're shaking my head, right? So anyway, when you're in church, the preacher tells you about all these people that are enslaved or in bondage 400 and something years, and you had this great person bringing them out, and they were making mud bricks, and they were doing pyramids, which that's BS too, because the pyramids were there thousands of years before any of these people got there, if that was even the case. So anyway, friends. So, the Hyksos. Well, let me tell you about it, friends. Did you know that the Egyptians were oppressed? Did you hear what I said? The Egyptians were oppressed. But you didn't know that, did you? Did you know they were in bondage? Did you know they were under scrutiny? Did you know they had foreign invaders come into Egypt and subdue them and make them work for them? Friends, you better wake up and smell the coffee. Because things have been twisted and turned backwards. So let's go and do our research on this little Hyksos people, shall we? The Hyksos were rulers from foreign lands. They were people of diverse origins, and they were possibly from Western Asia who settled in the eastern Nile Delta. The arrival of the Hyksos led to the end of the 13th dynasty and initiated the second intermediate period of Egypt. In the context of ancient Egypt, the term Asiatic refers to the people native to the areas east of Egypt. Now, immigration by Canaanite populations preceded the Hyksos. Canaanites first appeared in Egypt at the end of the 12th dynasty and established an independent realm in the eastern Nile Delta. The Canaanite rulers of the Delta regrouped and founded the 14th dynasty, which coexisted with the Egyptian 13th dynasty. The power of the 13th and the 14th dynasty progressively waned, perhaps due to the famine and plague. So, now you have a situation that, let's kind of regroup a little bit. Egypt and Canaan had a long history. And they knew each other. They traded with one another. And they had battles. Now, here you have a situation that these Canaanites, Syrian Canaanites, came in to the Nile Delta and they settled due to a famine that they had in Canaan. And they got real, tight with the boys, you see. So the Canaanites lived there in Egypt, and you never know, they could have gotten married. The regular people had children. They were half Canaanites, half Syrian Canaanites, half Egyptians. And then they crept in and they took over. And they led from Avaris. Okay? So now you had them taking over Thebes. And they were telling Thebes to give the money to Avaris because that's where these Hyksos kings ruled. And they ruled for, Manetho said 511 years. Some people say 200 or 300 years. Well, anyway, these people worship Hadad. Okay? Their chief deity was a native god, storm god Hadad, or Adad, and they associated with the Egyptian storm and desert god Set. The Hyksos were mixed Semitic people, speaking origin, and the Hyksos are generally held to have contained Hurrian and Indo-European elements, particularly among the leadership. Now, the Hyksos brought several technical innovations to Egypt as well as cultural imports. They brought the chariot, they introduced the horse, and the composite bow, and improved battle axes. Okay? So now you have a situation where Egypt was, all sides were getting hammered. They had to worry about the Batanis, the Hurrians to the north. They had to deal with the Libyans to the west. Then they had to deal with the Canaanites from the east, and the Nubians and the Cushites in the south. But what people failed to understand is that Cush is older than Egypt, but in all one time it was called Ethiopia or Kemet. So anyway, also the Kemites are the descendants of the Ethiopians. So let's get that straight. Now, they're in to their eyeballs in oppression. Hyksos has them by the you-know-whats. They're dictating, and you have almost brothers, the mother, that said, enough's enough. We've got to deal with these people. These are people that aren't even natives. These people just came in. They're sitting there. They're multiplying. And they're getting stronger. And they're going to overtake us. And they did. They did exactly just that. So, they fought them. You got to go. Bada boom, bada bing. So that's what brought on the 18th dynasty, the golden age of Egypt. That's when they were the most strong, most prosperous, and had settlements and trade and commerce, and the people were doing well again. Now, let's see what some of the writers of the day had to say about these Hyksos shepherd nomadic kings from Syria, Canaan. Just bear with me, guys. Just bear with me. Now, if we want to believe everything Josephus says, Arius Calpurnius Piso, the one that wrote the Bible, okay, and his family members of the Roman Empire, there is some truth to that, but you got to weed it out a little bit. Josephus, the patriarch, Jewish historian, now, the Jews were supposed to be oppressed in Egypt, correct? The Jews that are over there now, let's keep in that mindset, okay? They were the ones that were oppressed in Egypt, right? And Josephus is supposed to be one of those, right? So as a Jewish historian, he's writing about what's going on with these Hyksos. So I want you to pick this up. And after reading his books time and time and time again, it never hit me until one day the light bulb went on. I went, oh my God. Josephus, who believed that the Hyksos, the Syrian Canaanites, were the children of Israel. Can I read that again? Josephus, the Jewish historian who believed the Hyksos were the children of Israel, quoted Manetho as saying that they were a people of ignoble race who had confidence to invade our country, which they subdued easily without having to fight a battle. They set our towns on fire. They destroyed our temples of the gods and caused the people to suffer every kind of barbarity. During the entire period of their dynasty, they waged war against the people of Egypt, desiring to exterminate the whole race. And the foreigners were called Hyksos, which signifies shepherd kings. So I dare you, friends, when you're in there listening to this forked tongue preacher, and he says the Israelites were oppressed and the Egyptians were so evil, and they beat them with whips and chains. You stand up right there, friends, and you say that Josephus, the almighty historian that you pull from and put in your pulpits, says that the Hyksos were the Israelites, and they came in, friends, and they burned the temples down. And they subdued us, the Egyptians. I had a preacher one day sit up there and say to me and the congregation about Josephus, and says that Josephus writes about Jesus, and that Jesus was a real man, and that he died, and he was buried, and he resurrected on the third day. There's lots of Jesuses. There's lots of Yeshuas. There's lots of Joshuas. And he's trying to convince me of that through Josephus's writings. But friends, when you stand on your own 2 feet and you take the book and you put it in front of their face and you say, wait a minute, if you're going to quote what Josephus says about Jesus, then you're going to have to eat crow when Josephus tells you by Manetho, the Greek historian of 300 BCE under Ptolemy, Philadelphus. They even ran the high priest and made them naked. So don't tell me nothing that I don't know, because I read, friends, and I research this devil. The devil that writes this masquerades in light where he wants you to believe him. But you see, friends, the chiseling on the walls and the temples and the pyramid and the coffin text cannot be erased unless they plaster them. And yes, friends, they have plastered and they have put concrete over it where you can't read it. And they hold Egypt in their hands to this day, the Roman Empire. They're afraid. But it doesn't matter. The temples are alive. They are alive and well. They're breathing, living entities, organic structures that the cosmic force says you will not die because I am here and you will have life when you come to my sanctuary. People have forgot. And Manetho's reference to a carnival of destruction confirmed by the inscription of Queen Hatshepsut. And I have been to her mortuary temple that was found in 1948 under the sands of time, and it says it's time to be rebirthed. It is time. We've had the Dead Sea Scrolls unlocked. We've had the Qumran caves unlocked. We've had the writings of the Essenes unlocked. And Queen Hatshepsut come out in 1948. The things are alive. They're breathing. They want them to be resurrected because there is a new light coming to the world. And Egypt is the light of the world. It is waking up the DNA that has been in amnesia. And she declared, I have restored what was cast down. She's writing. She, the mother goddess of the 18th dynasty, says that I have restored what was cast down, and I have built up what was uncompleted. Since the Asiatics were in Avaris of the North Land, and the barbarians were among them, destroying buildings while they governed and not knowing Ra. They ruled not knowing the Almighty. She reigned 22 years, and Egypt was the most prosperous in her time. And went to Punt and got trees and put them on the ships and brought them to Egypt and planted them, and they're still there waving their arms in front of Ra. Manetho says that one of these Asiatic Hyksos shepherd kings from Canaan, he selected Memphis as his capital, and there he made Upper and Lower Egypt pay tribute to him, and he left garrisons at places to spy and make sure that they were doing what they had to do. And they fortified the towns with these garrisons. They destroyed the Egyptians. They pillaged, they tore up. And there they kept a garrison of 240,000 men. Because they were afraid also about the Assyrians. But the Assyrians had their own crap to deal with. The Assyrians and the Babylonians were duking it out with themselves. And I'm going to find some other things about this for you. And I had it. Oh, here it is. In my fingertips. Didn't even know it. Hotep. Let's get to it. People fighting the Egyptians, they said, enough's enough. When you've had enough, what do? Do you sit there and lay down and let the devil have its due and its way with you, friends? Do you keep letting them pollute your water? Subliminal messaging, chemtrails, pesticides, perversion. Or do you say enough's enough, you dirty rat bastards? Because we are not going to take it anymore. Only the strong shall survive. The weak shall prevail. The sheep shall go to slaughter. The red pill or the blue pill. Trying to get my phone to do right. So I can get to what I wanted to read to you. Yeah, I'm liking this already, buddy. There is a stele that talks about the Hyksos, and guess what? If I can find it before I get off of here, I'm going to show you the proof in the pudding. Historically correct. The Hyksos people and their exodus from Egypt. The Theban pharaoh attacked the walls of Avaris with an army of 480,000 men. You go, almost. Praise to Ra. And endeavored to reduce the Hyksos to submission by siege. Despairing of achieving his object, he concluded a treaty under which they were all to evacuate and go whither they would unmolested. Upon these terms, no fewer than 240,000 families with their possessions left Egypt and transversed through the desert to Syria, later explained as being Jerusalem, or Jerusalem was in Syria. Kadesh. Do your research. They made a treaty, the Egyptians, to go and not be killed. But they can come into a country that is not doing anything and slaughter them to the highest. Does that sound familiar, friends? Going into countries that are sovereign and the people have nothing to do with it. They were bought. They gave them things by the Theban Egyptians. They gave them large precious metals, gold, silver. Josephus says, then surely their traditions should say something similar. This is not only sound reasoning, but it also seems to be remarkably correct. The biblical texts say of the same events, and it's right under your noses. Speak now in the ears of the Israelites, and let every man borrow of his neighbor jewels of silver and jewels of gold. And the Lord gave the Israelites favor in the sight of the Egyptians, so that they gave them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. The Egyptians also honored them with gifts, some in order to get them to depart quickly, and others on account of their neighborhood and their friendship they had with them. They came in, they were friends with these Egyptians. Boy howdy, friends. They mingled. They had compadres. They might have had sister-in-laws. And you snuck in like a demon in disguise. And then boom, there you go. They were given money to leave. Get the hell out of Dodge. The Tempestili also has the plagues and everything that was going around at the time. About Santorini also blowing up and making it dark and hailing and things not growing. So let's go to Exodus. I think 12 and 36. And it says, "And the Lord gave the people favor in the sight of the Egyptians, in the sight of them such things as they required, and they spoiled the Egyptians. And the children of Israel journeyed, and on foot, and a mixed multitude went up with them, and flocks with every type of cattle." It says that they borrowed of the Egyptians jewels of silver, jewels of gold, and raiment. They even left with the cakes of bread not even fully finished cooking. So let's see what else I can find. I hope you're liking this, friends. Please tell me that I'm doing a good job for you, because I'm trying to get us out of this problem. And I don't understand. Okay, here we go. My phone is acting up today. Okay, here we go. So, how do you like that? Coming in, taking over your homeland, being oppressed, sacking you with taxes, and that's your place. Let's go to one more part. I'm sorry, Sonny, I didn't mean to scare you. Genesis. I think, is it 12 or is it 1547? I want to say it's. Dog's done went into her kennel. She's scared, guys. There's raining out here. Okay, here we go, friends. Hold on. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. Don't start, dog. Is it 12? Guys, I'm so sorry. I had it right here. God, I hate that when I just had this in my book. This is nuts. Hang on, I'm going to find it, guys, because it's very important. Well, is it 45:17? No, I hate this. Because this is crazy what I'm fixing to read to you, and I just had it. Okay, here we go. Woohoo! Thank gosh, I found it. Thank the universe. Thank you, Ra. Genesis 47. And Genesis 47. And we're going to read at, say, say 17. 47:17. And we'll read and I'll explain. So, let's go into retrospective. If Egypt is the most prosperous country in Africa, in that part of the world, and they give grain and they were supplying famine all over, right? Given Syria, Canaan, places. They were the most civilized. had civilization for thousands of years, grain and food and water through the Nile, vegetation, religious practices, and knew about the divine. This dog is killing me. Anyway, there's something fishy about this, and I'm going to get to it. And Joseph said, "Give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail." And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. When that year was ended, they came unto him the second year, and said unto him, "We will not hide it from my lord. How that our money is spent, my lord also hath our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my lord, but our bodies and our lands. Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes, before we, our land? By us." Think about this. By us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. And Joseph bought all the land of Egypt for Pharaoh, for the Egyptians sold every man his field, because the famine prevailed over them. So the land became Pharaoh's. The Pharaoh already owned Egypt. When you were Pharaoh, you owned the whole country. Why does the Pharaoh of Egypt need to buy his Egyptians? We're talking about the Hyksos, these freaks that were in Egypt buying the Egyptians and their cattle and their sheep, and they are begging for seeds of the Hyksos so they can live. And as for the people, he removed them to cities from one end of the borders of Egypt, even to the other end thereof. Only the land of the priest bought he not. For the priest had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them. Wherefore they sold not their land. Then Joseph said unto the people, "Behold, I have bought you this day, and your land for Pharaoh. Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land." And they said, "Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants." Egyptians will be the Pharaoh's slaves. The Pharaohs owned the country. The people worked together in unity and solitude. They had the laws of Ma'at. And he didn't need to buy his own people. The people were working for unity for the country. And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt. Yes, they did, these Canaanites. In the country of Goshen. And they had possessions therein and grew and multiplied exceedingly. So who you MFers are you taking from? Huh? I don't care if you you didn't like what I just said. I don't care. I'm giving it to you raw. I'm giving it to you unedited. I don't care. But if you read the scriptures in a different light and you know the historical value, one of the kings of the Hyksos was called Jacob, Jacob El, and who was the son of Jacob? And you can see that Joseph didn't want to be buried in Egypt. He wanted to go to his father's land. So why are they telling you the Egyptians had to give up their land and their cattle for bread? They're begging. Well, these creeps went to Avaris and they had possessions and they grew and multiplied. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of them. I'm sick of it. So Josephus says that the Israelites, the Hebrews, were Canaanites. And so when the Hyksos was kicked out by almost the first and started the 18th dynasty, look this up, friends. I don't care if you believe me or not. I'm telling you, and you go look at it for yourself. I'm giving you a way out. I'm giving you a way out, as if Moses says, let us part through the Red Sea with a staff. And I know this is a lengthy video, friends, and I'm sorry, but it had to be done today. And that's why they always had trouble with them. Because they were creepers. And when Akhenaten left, that's the second Exodus. And when he left and he went there, the Egyptian had a province in Canaan, and they mixed. And this is who we have ruling today. Hotep and Ashe and Egypt will reign again. Have a great day, guys. Goodbye.